All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome to the initial episode of the What's in the Bag podcast. My name is Jonathan. I'll be one of your hosts. So just to kind of start off with what this podcast really is, I go to Wake Forest University. I'm a junior there. I've golfed basically my entire life. I'm a single-digit handicapper. And me and Austin here, who will introduce himself in a second, are huge golf fans. And we wanted to start a podcast, and Austin will kind of tell you what this podcast is really trying to accomplish. So I'll let Austin introduce himself.
Sounds good. So, hey guys, me and Jonathan have been playing golf together since we were little. We're both single-digit handicappers. We absolutely love the game. And our hope with this podcast is to sort of gain some perspective that you don't get as your typical weekend warrior. We're hoping to have guests on ranging from teaching professionals to people on different club and varsity teams that at the schools that we went to. And we're really hoping to just broaden the range of what golf is, because I think that people have totally different experiences, and it's fun to hear about those, and it really gives you some more perspective into this game that I think we all love.
Right. Keep going.
Since today's our first podcast, we're just going to recap the year so far and sort of talk about what's been going on, give you guys a feel for sort of like what we like to talk about, what we think about when we're watching, and to sort of let you guys get to know us. And then starting next week, we'll start to have some guests on, and we'll proceed from there.
Right. Today's going to be a little bit different. But like Austin said, this podcast is intended for people who maybe aren't the most diehard PGA Tour fan and know every single thing about the game, but aren't exactly the people who play golf once a year either. It's dedicated for those people in between who really enjoy the game, people who want to know more about the game, and the people who are trying to expand their golf interests. And that's hopefully where me and Austin are able to come in. And we sincerely hope you enjoy the podcast. And please let us know your feedback at the end of this. Email us. I think we're going to set up a SoundCloud and other places where you can get in touch with us. I think, Austin, you have any more information on what we're going to do in that regard?
Yeah, guys. So it would be awesome if you follow us on SoundCloud. We're at the Golf Guys, and on Twitter at What's in the Bag 18. We would love to get feedback from you guys. Let us know if you like the guests that we have on. Let us know if you like what we're trying to accomplish. As Jonathan said, we're just starting out, so any feedback that we can get would be great. And we're just honestly two guys who love to talk about the game, talk about anything. So even if you want to just start a conversation with us, we'd love to talk to you.
Right, that'd be great. So I think we should now get into it. So I think we're going to briefly recap the Century Tournament of Champions, and then we're going to move our focus onto the more recent tournaments over in Dubai and then at the Career Builder. So, Austin, let's talk about this event, Century Tournament of Champions. And, I mean, obviously, Dustin Johnson just absolutely smoked the field. He finished 8 strokes ahead of the pack. His highest round was 69, and he closed out on the weekend with 66, 65. Just really super impressive, especially in a pretty strong field. It kind of shows you that DJ has the capability to be this Tiger-like, this Jack Nicklaus-like figure, dominating the game and coming out with these incredible wins.
For sure. I mean, I think that when he has things going, he's the best player by far on tour. I mean, do you see that shot that he hit, the one on the par 4? He almost
hold it. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
433-yard par 4. I mean, think about that. For your everyday golfer, like you average a drive of somewhere between like 200 to 250 yards.
Yep.
This guy hit it. You have to hit driver 6-iron to get to this hole. And yeah, it was downwind, but you had Brian Harman playing with him who hit driver 9-iron. And
yeah. I was about to say, it's pretty interesting that this dichotomy between DJ and Harman is actually, since his win with that putt, he's been playing actually pretty excellent. And he's this little 5'2" guy who hits at 200 yards, right? Not actually. And he's keeping up with the big boys. He's in 3rd place in this tournament. It's pretty impressive for Harman, too.
He's a fantastic player. I mean, he had a great amateur career, won a bunch of big events. And he's someone who also loves to rise to the occasion. And he's not backing down from a Dustin Johnson type. Like, he's not scared of him. But I think that at the end of the day, DJ's distance just gives him such a huge advantage.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it really is. And especially because – oh, go ahead.
Yeah. he's worked really hard on the other facets of his game, and I think that really has started to come through, especially when you just lap a field like this. I mean, this is a field of the best players in the world. This is like they're all fired up to get the season going. It's like the first real big event of the year, I would say. And you just have such a dominant performance from the world number one now. And I think that a lot of the time he gets overlooked because he's not necessarily part of the big friend group that's developed between guys like Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, etc. But overlooking him is just crazy because, like he showed, he just has this gear where no one can keep up with him. And I think he might be I would say him and Rory are the only guys on tour who have sort of shown that, and obviously Tiger, but Tiger hasn't shown that for years. So hopefully he can get back to it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that what you said about how he's really worked on the other facets of his game is really important. His long game has always been there, I think, but his putting and his 100 yards at in game, we've seen at times struggle. And I think if he can figure out a way to get that where it needs to be for an entire season, I don't want to say impossible to beat, but it's certainly going to be difficult to beat. No one else was in the 70s all 4 rounds. DJ was in the 70s all 4 rounds, like I said, and only one other player was even below 70 for the weekend, and DJ wasn't even above 66 on Saturday and Sunday. So that's a very impressive thing to do. And I think we also might be seeing kind of a developing rivalry between Jon Rahm and Dustin Johnson, because I kind of think that they have a similar sort of power game, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be fun to watch that develop. I was going to ask you, what do you think of tournaments like this Tournament of Champions stuff where you have these exclusive fields? You know, you only have people getting in through winning on tour last year. Do you like the idea? Do you think that this is a good event to kick off the season? I mean, it's sort of similar to the Hero, right? Where it's just like a very exclusive field of just sort of like the very specific. Yeah, it's a very specific field.
I like it, actually. I think that probably not every event on tour, but 4 or 5 a year of these kind of exclusive, limited field, maybe no-cut events or 54-hole cut events are pretty good because you really get to see 4 days of golfers at their best, the best golfers in the world, really competing, and you can kind of see them compete against each other. And while it is definitely nice to see maybe kind of a rando or someone you don't expect to compete at the top of the leaderboard some days, I definitely want some tournaments where I see all my favorite golfers, all the golfers that people who might not follow the game religiously know, and that will get them into the game. That's why everyone loves the Masters, right? Because the Masters is a famous venue at Augusta with famous golfers winning, and that's important. And I think it's also important that you have other events like that that drum up interest in the game, and then you have these players, these icons, these Spieths, these Rickies, these DJs that people can follow and people can get invested in. Because being invested in the pro game is definitely a big part of drumming up interest in the game in general, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that these tournaments are awesome, and I think they're a lot of fun. I would love to see one as more like a big sort of event, because like these events sort of get lost because I think a lot of people stop paying attention in this time of the year, because golf is sort of, the reputation is that like these tournaments aren't as important. They're just sort of tune-ups to the Masters, which is when a lot of people feel that golf really starts. So it'd be really cool to have maybe something in the middle of the summer where you have some sort of exclusive event, but who knows? But I really do like these events.
I think they are very cool. So let's move on now to the Career Builder Challenge, which was the last tournament, and then after this we'll talk about Abu Dhabi. So this was pretty much the biggest name, and almost one of the only real big names was Jon Rahm, and he did come out with the victory. And if you watch the playoff, it was pretty impressive. Him and Andrew Landry, relatively unknown guy. Andrew Landry had a big dick putt on 18. About 15-footer. He had to get up and down for birdie to force the playoff. He does. And then they go 4 playoff holes deep before Rahm finally wins. Landry actually had about a 6-footer on the 3rd playoff hole to win and missed. So what do you think about Rahm pulling off this win? And people went low. There was 3 courses, and the stadium course, which they played one of the first 3 days, and then the final day was the only hard course. The other 2 were absolutely scoreable. So tell me what you think about Rahm, what you saw from him this weekend, and about the other guys you saw on the field, maybe the lesser-known guys who made charges.
Yeah, I think that this is a really interesting tournament. It shows sort of how deep the game of golf is, because you have some of these relatively unknown up-and-coming guys. You had Austin Cook there for a bit, who got his first win. a little bit ago. You had you had Landry there. Obviously, who's like you said, a relatively unknown guy, but like these guys are amazing players and have so much potential to like really give the game of golf this like second tier that I feel like it sort of has been missing for a bit.
Yeah.
Where you get past the top tier and you sort of really fade off into like losing consistency and stuff like that. But some of these guys really have the potential to be like great players. I mean, I was super impressed by Landry. I thought that
Yeah.
he held his own really well. He, if you watched any of the playoff, he doesn't hit it nearly as far as Rahm doesn't. So on the 18th, right, he was hitting driver the same distance as Rahm was hitting his three wood.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that is super intimidating when you have to play against someone and just seeing them next to each other, right? Like Rahm probably has 6 inches on Landry and
Yeah.
almost 100 pounds. Like he's a way bigger guy, and Landry is relatively small. But the nice thing about golf is like that doesn't matter, right? And so these guys are showing that they can really hold up under some unreal pressure. And Landry was hitting some amazing shots. I sort of wish that he had won. I think it would have been a little bit more interesting. It meant a lot more for Landry for sure. But that's how it falls. Oh well.
Yeah.
I think that something else that I wanted to talk about for a little bit is I really think that it's cool that we got to see sort of I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's like some sort of it factor, but Jason Kokrak had made 5 birdies in a row going into the 18th hole on Sunday and was at 21 under. And he drove it. And for those of you who don't know, Jason Kokrak is sort of an unknown. He hits it, sort of a journeyman, hits it really, really far. But, obviously he had it going 5 birdies in a row on Sunday to make a charge at the lead. That's super impressive. Hits it into the bunker on 18. And he hits his second shot back into the bunker, right? And that's just sort of unheard of for a player of his caliber. Like, just crazy to see something like that happen. But, I think it's really just boils down to the pressure of the moment getting to him. And you see some guys like that who have been struggling. Like he has the game to be up there with like a DJ or a Rom, but you see these guys who just don't have it, like that it factor, right? And I think that is just something really interesting to get to see in these sort of like smaller tournaments where like maybe the people playing are sort of less proven, right? And you see the pressure really get to them, and it just shows like how I think it really juxtaposed to Rahm and Landry shows how impressive it is that these two managed to perform at such a high level during the playoff. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's also funny that he hit his 3rd shot into the bunker too. He messed up twice.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty funny. If you read out his play-by-play on the PGA Tour website, it goes: shot 1, 249 yards to fairway bunker. Shot 2, 9 inches to fairway bunker. Shot 3, 14 inches to fairway bunker. So that's pretty tough. Especially he was 1 off the lead and then bogeyed 17, double bogeyed 18. So like you're saying, it's just people who aren't there, people who don't have those big names. It's true that you see a guy on the leaderboard on Saturday you've never heard of in a major, you're like, he'll be gone by Sunday, because they are most of the time, because they haven't been there before and they get in these situations and they're not prepared mentally. I think obviously they have the skill to do it. I'm sure he's hit a 200-yard fairway bunker shot so many times in his life to within 30 feet on the green, right? Which is all he needed to do to give himself a realistic shot at the playoff. But mentally, this guy's all in his head most likely, and he's just not ready to make these incredible shots that all these players who have been there before have, right? And that's a very interesting way to think about it, that maybe these guys have the skills, but golf is so much more mental than a lot of other sports.
Definitely. And definitely. I think speaking of another guy who has that, we saw Phil here miss the cut. And he was maybe the only other really big name playing.
Yeah, I think so.
At least of
maybe Kevin Kisner, but he's not that big of a name. Brian Harmon played too, but again, nowhere near on the level of Rahm and
right. Yeah, I think Rahm and Phil were probably.
I guess Webb Simpson, who's won a major, and Duffner too. But anyways, but Phil's definitely ahead above them, head and shoulders.
Right. So Phil misses the cut here. Has not been playing great golf for the last year and a half, 2 years, I think was the last time
2 years. I'd
he
say 2 years.
won.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and so what do we think we're gonna see out of Phil? Do we think that maybe the lack of driving accuracy is gonna catch up to him as he gets older? Like we would see him when he was younger with this incredible ability to make birdies out of these insane spots, and like I don't think he's necessarily lost that, but I think that maybe losing a few yards and getting older has maybe contributed to
Yeah.
this sort of
Phil's
downswing.
he's
And
always been sort of all over the place, like you said,
right,
and I'm not sure if we're going to see him contend realistically in majors anymore.
right.
What do you think?
Um, yeah, I mean, he's also been doing this forever. Like the last time he missed the cut here at the Career Builder was in '91, which
Yeah,
was years before
that's
John Rahm was born, right?
which is
And
a wild thing to even
about
think
that,
about.
totally insane. Like he's been around forever, and maybe just like the grind of, the mental grind is catching up to him,
Yeah,
and he's had an unbelievable career, right? Like if without Tiger, he would be talked about as like one of the greatest golfers of all time, and I
yeah,
think he still should be in that conversation, but he gets less less of the spotlight than maybe he deserves. But still, I would love to see him. I think he's super fun to watch. I think he brings um, a great sort of like he brings great energy to the game. He like a lot of people like him. It's fun to watch him scramble from those insane places, but I'm not sure that we'll see him be able to get back to the level
yeah.
that he's
It's
been at.
interesting that he's sort of made this living from scrambling all over the golf course, and like, and when I play sometimes, or you too, both of us get into these modes where we're not hitting fairways, but sometimes we have the tendency to piss our playing partners off because we make some absurd shots, right? And we recover, and it's kind of fun when you're not playing this traditional game, right? When you're all over the place in the rough and you have to hit a shot over trees or hit a little punch draw through the trees, right? When you're not playing well, it's an exciting game and it's exciting. And Phil tended to find gaps in the trees that no one else would thought exist, right? Which is, it's sad to see him kind of on the twilight of his game because only a few years ago, right? Phil had won a major 4 or 5 years ago. He's competing in majors, and it seemed to be a harder fall off than I thought. Didn't he? He lipped out. He almost shot 59. I think 2 or 3 years ago. I remember watching that live when he lipped out that 30-footer for 59. And at that point, maybe you thought he was going to contend for a few more years. But I think safe to say now that unless he tweaks his approach, unless he finds a new swing where he's hitting more fairways, I totally agree with you that I don't know if he still has the same ability to scramble from all over the place that he did when he was younger.
Right. Yeah, and so I think that segues decently into maybe talking about another big name who we haven't heard about for a while, but obviously we've got Rory back on the scene.
Yep.
Played in the Abu Dhabi last week, played fantastic.
Yep.
Had just the everything that I think that he could have hoped for. He got out of that tournament. He he finished in second.
Finished in third, tied for third. He didn't win. He didn't end up winning, but I think we all were treated into a treat on I think it was Friday, where him, Tommy Fleetwood, the eventual winner, and Dustin Johnson all played together in a group. DJ shot 64 on Friday, Rory shot 66, and Fleetwood shot 68. So everyone's going low. Everyone's hitting booming drives. I'm sure if you're a golf fan, you've seen these Twitter videos of Rory and DJ just kind of having a long drive contest on the course. And although Rory didn't end up winning, it's great for the game that he ended up competing in this event. It's been 3 years since he won a major, a year and a half where he's done absolutely nothing. So I think it's really important for golf that we see Rory coming back because it also, this European-American rivalry is also something that I think the game it's strong, not even just in Ryder Cup years, but it drives the game when you have these foreign players who are excellent and these United States players who are excellent, both vying for majors and both hitting it long and going low.
Definitely. I mean, this is a treat for golf fans everywhere, right? Like, these are the studs, and I mean, it's fun to watch them bomb it. Like, watching Rory and DJ go at it, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And, like, if you imagine you throw a John Rahm into that, not that Tommy Fleetwood doesn't hit it far, but you throw John Rahm into that threesome, and you've got Rory, DJ, and John Rahm. Can you imagine following a group like that around the
It'd be
golf course?
unbelievable, right? Like Rory, DJ, Ricky, Rory, DJ, John Rahm. Like you're saying, all these players who hit it a mile and are really exciting. That's so good for the game. It was really great to see Rory perform like this, and I really hope I can see him. Even though he's not my favorite golfer, I know it's good for the game, so I hope we can see him perform like this in majors to come.
Definitely. I mean, and it's funny because like we haven't even talked about like Justin Thomas, right?
Right. Yeah.
The
No.
stud of last year, and he's under the radar already because there's so many great players right now.
Hmm.
And I just think it's totally amazing to sort of be able to be looking forward to this season. Like we've got so many exciting things to talk
Yeah.
about. I think quickly we should talk about Tommy Fleetwood. Because he's a guy that's totally flying on the radar, plays a lot over in
Competed
Europe.
in the U.S. Open. He was up
Right.
there for a period of time where it was looking like he was going to make a serious shot at it.
He has been playing some amazing golf over the
Yep.
last year,
Hmm.
maybe plus, and totally a player to keep an eye out for this year at the majors. Like he's another guy, sort of similar to Brian Harman, gets excited for the big events, and you can tell that he's driven to sort of get into the spotlight. He played well at the Century, and like we'll see what happens with him. He's
Yeah,
a fantastic player.
I agree.
Obviously, winning this event is impressive. Final round 65 to win. I mean,
Yep.
what? Yeah, what more could you want
No,
from sort
really,
of
just
the
great.
game right now? You've got so many amazing people to talk about, and I think that, like I was talking about, the depth of the game is just. I think we're really seeing like the Tiger boom, like all of the people who grew up watching Tiger, who got motivated because of Tiger, right,
Yeah.
are now coming into themselves, like finding themselves, and it's just amazing to be able to watch.
Yep. So now I think we should turn into some brief preview talk about the upcoming Northern Trust, and then we're gonna go into some segments, just a few segments, and then we're probably gonna wrap it up after that. So starting the Northern Trust, I mean, obviously, when he's there, he's the number one story. Of course, it's Tiger Woods,
Right.
and I'd say we're in a better position than last year where Tiger was in Abu Dhabi and then obviously crushed all of us and he withdrew after what, 5 holes and was out for another year. I think we're in a better place than that. I'm a little nervous, but I think this is a make or break moment for us Tiger stands, right? Me and you have loved Tiger forever. If Tiger comes out and shows us anything good, I am all in on the fact that maybe he won't win a major, but he will compete for at least a few years. So I'm very slightly optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic here that Tiger will make the cut, show us some stuff, hit some good drives, and hopefully compete.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is one of the. I think this might be the first really big full field tournament where we have some real buzz generated anytime you have Tiger
Mm-hmm.
playing in a tournament, right? Yeah, the Farmers. It's going to be at Torrey. Tiger obviously has had a ton of
Loves
success there.
Story, loves the course.
Absolutely
Yep,
loves it. And he's been out practicing. Their videos online of him practicing for the tournament
yep,
this week, and like he looks good. He looks healthy. He's going at it like we saw him at the Hero, like
yep.
absolutely swinging full throttle, and there was didn't seem like there were any problems with the back or anything. Says he's fully healthy for the first time. Talked about some fusion surgery that he had. I'm not an expert on anything like that, so I have no idea if what he's saying even is legit or makes any kind of sense. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, is claiming that it is now virtually impossible for him to re-aggravate the injury that
Mm-hmm.
had plagued him for so many years, and it's exciting. I mean, if if you could throw Tiger back into the mix, that really is the icing on an already just delicious cake of what golf is right now, right?
Yeah,
Like
yep.
it's awesome, and
It,
like having Tiger would almost feel like it's too good to be true, but that's the position that we're in. So I would love to see him succeed. I mean, obviously nobody generates more buzz around the game than he does.
mm-hmm.
So being
Yeah,
able to
I really just hope, hopefully, that he will, like we said, he goes out, he competes, and he gets in these battles, and hopefully he's in a good grouping. I think he's grouped with Patrick Reed, who's an emotional player, so we could definitely see some fireworks going between the two. Um, and we'll see. I don't expect him to win. I don't even expect him to top 10. I just expect him to make some birdies, to not wince in pain. That's the major key, is no wincing, nothing in the rough, and I think a short game too. We saw in the Bahamas, a short game was a little yippy on the chip sometimes. So I'm hoping that we show some improvement there, and then we show a lack of pain, and I will chalk that up as a win for the week.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and I mean, this field is awesome. We got Rom playing again, coming
Yep.
off of his win at the Career Builder to see. Let's see if he can follow up that performance. He moved up to second in the world, and so obviously he's going to be motivated to show that that wasn't a fluke and he's the real deal. And then you've got a lot of people who had a great end to 2017 coming back for sort of the first time. We've got like Tony Finau, who another guy who hits it a mile, has all the talent in the world. Let's see if he can take that next step this year, right?
Yes.
We have Jason Day coming back, who has faded off of the scene. I know he's had some personal stuff going on, but he's always fun to watch as well. Do you have a pick to win this week?
Yeah, so that's a good segue to this segment. So you just mentioned him actually. I'm gonna pick Tony Finau. He finished tied fourth at this event last year. The guy hits in a mile and he's in form. I think that this season for Finau could be a really, really big breakout season. I guess he does have. Does he have a win? I'm actually not quite sure. I'll fact check myself on that. But I think that if he doesn't, he will win this year for sure. And I think it would be at this event.
Cool. Yeah, I could
What about you?
definitely see it. I think that Brian Harman will win. He's been on the cusp of it the last few weeks, and he's one that just absolutely loves the spotlight, like the big moments. Like in all of his amateur career, he won all the big events, and I think that he's going to have a great week. I think that he's more in form, has been playing consistently well for a while, and for a lot of these guys, it's their first week playing in a like a real full field event, and I think that he's just geared to succeed right now. Although I wouldn't be surprised to see John Rahm repeat as well, coming off of such a great performance at the Career Builder.
Right. What about sleepers now? So I'll start, I guess, with my sleeper. I'm gonna go with Brendan Steele. He's 7,800 on DraftKings. He had a pretty nice little backdoor couple of days at the Career Builder. He had a nice few days, and I think that he'll get you some good value for your money if you're gonna bet him, or if you're going to use him on DraftKings. Like I said, 7,800 on DraftKings, and he's plus 5,500 for his odds.
Cool. Yeah. So I for our listeners, I was a computer science major, and so the simulation side of sports is always interested me a bunch. So I've been following a website that has a reasonably good golf simulator, and they had they're 2 for 2 in picking people in the top 10 who you wouldn't necessarily think of as coming in the top 10. So we had Kyle Stanley at the Sony, and then Kevin Chappell last week. Guys who you wouldn't really guess, right? Like those guys aren't big names. And so this week we're going to go with Alex Noren, relatively unknown player, plays a lot in Europe. But he's a great player. They're all great players, and so we'll see. And I like the simulation stuff, so maybe it'll continue to do well, and you guys can make some money off of that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was pretty good for our free agent stuff. And now, Austin, do you want to introduce this first segment that we have right here?
Sure. So I think we're going to try and end each podcast with 2 segments. One of them is going to be sort of a tip of the week, to sort of let you guys improve your games. Obviously, neither of us are teaching pros or anything like that, but in the future, we're hoping to get guests on who are capable of giving sort of better advice than we can. That being said, both of us are reasonably good players, and I think that this tip of the week can really help a lot of people out there. So I want to concentrate on looking at Jon Rahm's swing, and
okay,
he's got a very unique swing for the tour. He's got an unbelievably short takeaway, and then he just generates a ton of power from using his big muscles. Has the bowed left wrist. He's a big guy to begin with, right? But I think that looking at his swing, we can really take away that it doesn't matter how far you swing back, and I think that a lot of people who go out and play your weekend warriors sort of have it in their minds that in order to hit it far, you've got to have the John Daly takeaway, right? Where you've got the club way, way, way past parallel. And that's just simply not true. And I think that it leads to a lot more consistency, maybe to shorten up your swing. I think a lot of the guys that you see on tour who have the longer swings are a lot more flexible and have worked a lot harder at being able to get to positions like that than people like us have time to, or like the resources or the energy to even work on, right? And so I think that a great tip for people out there is just try and swing a little shorter. Like, have a look at Rahm's swing in slow motion. He barely takes it up past 3/4, and he still is one of the longest hitters on tour. And I think that will help a lot of people play
Right.
better golf. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like you said, they don't quite understand the concepts of, positions, and that generating power isn't all from how far you take the club back, and it's really how correct your swing is, and how you're meeting that. And I think that if swing coaches would teach players that a little more often, and if just recreational players would heed that advice more, I think that that would be a pretty good benchmark, I guess, for recreational players to go to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so should we get into our last segment? So our last segment is going to be sort of fun fact for the week, something that you wouldn't necessarily think of or you wouldn't know, but hopefully it'll be interesting to you guys. So
Right.
Jonathan's going to go ahead and talk about
Yeah.
that.
So our fun fact that we're going to talk about this week is, so like we talked about, DJ won at the Century, and that marks his, kind of surprisingly, I don't know if you'd know this, but it's his 11th consecutive PGA Tour season with a win. It's not actually his 11th year with a win because he won during one of the wraparound seasons, but anyways, 11 straight seasons with a win. So the only players who've had more than that are Tiger Woods with 14, Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer each had 17, and Jack Nicklaus during his 17 seasons, 2 wins in every single one of those seasons, which is an insane number to think about. And it just goes to show you that those periods of dominance kind of go overlooked. And then obviously no one overlooks Tiger's dominance, but it's pretty amazing how much these guys really dominated the game at
Definitely.
their
Definitely.
respective peaks.
I mean, that stat is insane. 2 wins in 17 straight seasons. Like, consistency and just consistency at a high level is totally ridiculous. And people
Yeah.
don't talk about that. I think that is a great, interesting tidbit to look back and say, those guys in the past, they were really, really good.
Yeah, it's crazy how good these guys are. Really, it's almost hard to believe, really.
Sure.
And it's just I just kind of wanted to kind of say that.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, that's gonna do it for our first podcast. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at What's in the Bag 18. You can reach us on Gmail at What's in the Bag Podcast at gmail.com. Again, we're just starting out. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to sort of open a conversation and hear about what you guys want to hear us talk about. Next week, we're going to have our first guest on, and we're going to get more into the idea of what the podcast is going to be. Just to reiterate, this week was more of letting you guys feel out who we are and sort of how we think about the game.
Yep.
And next week, we'll be more into trying to get different perspectives, get different insights into the game from different people. So yeah,
and
that's going to do
just
it.
really thank you for listening, and bye guys. See you next week. All right. I mean, I thought that was pretty good. We talked